are talking about State Champs, their album Kings for the New Age, fourth album from the pop punk band from Albany, New York. Has anyone heard their last album called Living Proof? Because I have not.
I also have not. I really liked The Finer Things from 2013. I was heavy in my pop punk phase at that point. See, State Champs is a strange band for me because even when I was heavy in my pop punk phase, and I still love pop punk, it was really only The Finer Things was what I latched onto, and then anything after that, it was like, I don't know. They just never were one of my top pop punk bands. I wouldn't even put them in like the top 10.
So Mitch says they are no water parks. So Tyler, do you have a background on this band?
No, I do not.
Okay. Around the World and Back from 2015. I actually did review that album. Because when I read that the album was one of the 10 essential records of 2015, according to the all-knowing alternative press, I figured how bad could it be? And the fact that I remember nothing about the album probably answers that question. How about you, Lauren? Anything you want to say about this band before we go into the review?
I hadn't heard about them at all. I had not heard the name of the band, the music, anything.
For me, Mitch, we do this all the time. It seems like I have the same forgettable reviews for these equally forgettable albums from these modern pop punk bands, at least until today, because this album was a enjoyable listen. If you never heard this group before, basically this is it. If you like Newfound Glory and you've been to the Warped Tour in the 2000s up to when the Warped Tour stopped, there is no reason you should not like this band, because it has every element of that band and all the other pop punk bands that used to play on that festival tour. You got the crunchy pop punk chords, you got the catchy like hooks, you got the whiny vocals, you got the romantic lyrics that are either heartfelt or like bitter. It's like all there. So right now, if you're older and you used to listen to Newfound Glory, never heard this band before, go out and buy this. That's my rating for you guys. Everybody else, I feel like we owe them. Let's just go into it. The opening track's called Here to Stay, and the song Eventually is very energetic, bouncy. The singer, his name is Derek. He has like these like angsty lyrics that are fun to sing along to. And I had a question for Mitch, because you mentioned that you're in this beginning of a breakup. So did you feel like this album was like totally relatable to you lyrically?
Yeah, there were definitely certain tracks on here that lyrically stuck with me.
Everybody but you, I immediately thought of you.
My favorite track on the record. There you go.
Yeah, that's the Mitch anthem for you guys, right? Yeah.
I mean, it helps that Ben Barlow is on that one. He's the frontman of Neck Deep, which is one of my favorite pop punk bands ever.
The thing I love about that song is that it's got this like acoustic guitar to power pop transition at the beginning, and it kind of reminded me of this band called the All American Rejects. You remember that group?
Oh, yeah.
I have that written down. There was a lot of this album that reminded me, not so much as going back as far as Newfound Glory, but more in the 2006 to 2008 All American Rejects. I actually wrote down Boys Like Girls. The angsty, sad breakup songs like Love Drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a lot of what I got from a lot of this album.
Okay, I never heard that group before, but I think we're on the same page here. I think they have the catchy, poppy sing-along hooks, but it's like a little more faster.
It's the crowd engaging. It's also the driving in your car with all the windows down, sing along, drumming on your steering wheel kind of shit. On a nostalgic tip, it very much spoke to me. It was like wearing that old sweatshirt that you still have from 2002, and it's totally got like a dirty water dog from the city stain on it, and it's got stories and memories, and that's what this has to me. Like this just took me back to a lot of music that I listened to in the early aughts, and it was like a warm blanket.
I actually would probably sing along to these songs, maybe in public. What do you think, Tyler, of this album?
overall, it does feel nostalgic because it does feel like the early aughts. Like listening to this, especially in my car the last few days, just like belting out the best I could. It felt like I was somehow a kid, but somehow in my early teens again. It was amazing.
Let's talk about these features. You mentioned Ben Barlow on that song, Everybody But You, he talked about. And his voice is not as whiny as Derek, but he has more of like a bratty voice. But I think the fact that he's in that band Neck Deep and they're both pop punk bands, they mesh together just fine.
Yeah.
But that other feature with his name is Mitchell Tenpenny. He's a Nashville country singer on
Yeah,
this
I had
song.
to look that up, and I was very surprised to see that that is a country singer. I had never heard of this person before.
Yeah, he's on this song called Act Like That, and I thought that his feature was interesting.
I got so pulled in to that song.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a good hook. I like the synth pop sound of the song, the groove of the bass tabs, and the quiet synth keys that they add to it. But Mitchell comes in on the bridge of that song, and he's like kind of crooning through it, like what you expect a country pop singer to sound like. And doing the backing vocals for the final part of the chorus, which, by the way, I feel like all the features do the same thing. Come in on the bridge, sing along with backing vocals for like the final part of like the chorus, and they're out. I'm kind of like thinking about it's formulaic, but I think with both examples I said, it works. What do you think, Mitchell? Because your name is the same.
Yeah, we're connected in some way. It was definitely an interesting track. It didn't even really stand out to me. So I want to know like how that came about. Yeah, I mean it was a State Champs track.
All right, so let's get into the other feature, which is Chrissy Costanza on the song Half Empty, which is more of like a ballady song with the piano notes included. So for me, it's not my cup of tea. That particular song is really too sappy for my taste. When that hook comes in, when they say like, I'm the glass half empty of every drink, you're the other half of me. Kind of roll my eyes for that. But I think Derek and Chrissy, they sound good together. Tyler, you're kind of like the sad boy of us all. Like, did you like that song?
I didn't mind it. No. Was it a little sappy? Sure. I mean, we had plenty of songs or odds in the last 10 years that have been sappy, like gag me, please. But I will agree that they're like certain artists sound great together. And I feel like that, what was her name? Chrissy and the State Champs just sound awesome together. So it was redeeming in that regard. So I liked it, even though it was kind of like a little balladistic. Is that a word?
Balladistic. That's a good word. Let's use
Balladistic.
that. Lauren, you're a girl. What do you think of that song?
I liked it. It kind of made me think of, like, I was really mushy for Spill Canvas. Got a little bit of vibe of not the content or the sound, but just the vibe that it gave off to me. That alt rock ballad, that alt rock make you think. Even it might not be a ballad in the tempo per se, but the lyric and the touching that you get on the inside if you're going through a breakup or something, that this was something that I felt you would lean to.
Yeah, it's a good feature, like we said. But then I saw Alan and Dan from the Easy Core band 4 Year Strong were on this song called Sundress. And I was like both excited and worried because I'm like, oh, now 4 Year Strong has to like kind of like cater to like this like poppy sound that State Champs do because 4 Year Strong has a more aggressive melodic hardcore style. And yeah, the song is definitely like really standard pop punk. But then when 4 Year Strong comes on, I feel like, and Mitch, maybe you notice this too, the music kind of switches to like a more 4 Year Strong as heavier tone.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm like, thank you. I was so happy to hear that they kept to their roots on that song.
Ben Barlow, like that made sense. And I didn't even know who Chrissy was, but I saw 4 Year Strong on here, and I wouldn't necessarily say they're like one of my favorite bands, but I do like them and respect them. So to see them on here, I was like, all right, I'm wondering how they're going to be a part of this, because when I'm listening to this, this kind of pop punk to me makes me think about like 5 Seconds of Summer.
Okay, that's pretty
leans-
insulting, but go on.
I mean, it just leans more into the pop than the punk in the pop punk. But Sundress, that definitely stood out for me. I liked that one. 4 Year Strong, definitely interesting to see them on there.
And to let you guys know, like, we're saying that 4 Year Strong's on that, but since the fact that both bands have this like pop sensibility to them, it doesn't sound jarring at all when that part happens.
No.
I had a second concern. I'm like, okay, this is a pop punk band. Obviously, they're gonna end this album with an acoustic ballad or something like that. But the last song, which is called "Some Minds Don't Change," is just as lively as like the other songs, and it's got like the wordy sing along lyrics that they are doing. I thought that was a great closer, and they end it with like a like chord at the end. It was a really easy listen that finishes off strong. What do you think, Lauren?
I wanted to add to Sundress. That was my favorite song on the whole album. It totally gave me, when Mitch said the word summer, I was like, oh my God, that summer longing for love kind of track. Like, I don't know if you guys know the band, the Shout Out Louds, but in 2013, they did this song Impossible, and it came out in the summer. And it was that, like, you want that piece of that person to last for the whole summer. And that was what I got from Sundress, and I loved it. Maybe it was the mushy summer love girl part of me, but I absolutely love that. And then I saw exactly what you said about Some Minds Don't Change, how it just totally didn't come across the way I thought it would compared to the rest of the album. It was a little rougher around the edges with the guitar sound, but it tied everything together, and then it became even further this marriage of all the early 2000 bands that I liked in this genre.
Okay, so let's do this. And Tyler, since you haven't said much, let's go with you first for your final thoughts and rating.
Alrighty. Like I said, this for me felt a little nostalgic. It was refreshing, but somehow familiar. This could be due to the very familiar tone and sound design, which just kind of drags you in and just sucks you down that rabbit hole of like a better time, a better day. It's a 2000s sound. It's that punk pop, like rock that just ruled in the early aughts. The energy throughout the album was great, and just ending on that high octane energy still, it just made it for me. I'm giving this a buy this.
All right, Lauren, what do you think?
I really, really liked this. This is a little beyond our stretch. This is a little, we're too old for this, not to sound like a jerk. But it does bring me down a lot of memory lane of music I had feeling for, music that evoked feelings in me. And not only am I going to suggest people download it, I already downloaded it because I plan on listening to it this summer.
All right. Unfortunately, I am a punk rock purist, so I have a reputation to uphold. But I really thought this album was fun to listen to, so I'm conflicted. Gonna give this a high download this. It's worth going out of your way to hear. Mitch, final thoughts and rating, go.
I feel like I'm going to be the stick in the mud, and I'm going to let a lot of people down. But the thing with me is that I like growth in pop punk, and I don't know if it's just that these guys are newer than the example I'm about to give, but my favorite pop punk band of all time is the Wonder Years, and they have like really grown with me. So it's like I've never felt like, okay, I'm a little alienated for this, or I've grown past this, because I've come up with it. And State Champs, I mean, like I had mentioned, even when I was fully in my pop punk phase back in the day, they were sort of a miss for me besides their second full length. But this was at times incredibly corny for me, to a point where I would just like be like, all right, like I just felt like, okay, this maybe isn't for me right now, but maybe like back in the day I would have liked it a little bit more, or in a different state of mind or whatever. I would still like want to revisit it again though. Like I don't think I'm like fully set, but at this point I think I'd give it a low download this. That's where I'm at with it. But you know, who knows? Maybe with the summer, I'll try and incorporate it to the playlist, and who knows? Maybe it'll grow on me more.
God damn, Mitch, threw me off on that. I was so happy to come to you and so ashamed at the same
Like
time.
I said earlier, I just get off on disappointing you. So.
That might be why you're single right now.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Valid.
Like and subscribe, folks.